Good morning. Rise and shine. Beautiful day to be alive. A beautiful morning sun. Remember, early bird gets the best worm. So it's just time for a little morning walk, and I started doing these lives to uh, get a little bit up more personal, get to know a little bit more what's going on, and share my thoughts, right? And some, ex- uh, maybe answer some couple questions. But never again, remember that we're oriented people. We're focus oriented people. What does that mean? Is that we write our goals down. Want to write goals down on a piece of paper. Why? Because for you write something down, that's where you put your focus. Where you put your focus, it's where you put your energy. Where you put your energy, you create movement. And the idea is always to keep moving, right? And moving forward. Today, I want to talk about. I kind of want to answer the question: how many types of condos out there? So this is something that's relatively, I wouldn't say new, but it's happening. And so right now we have buildings or condominiums, and we basically have three types of condominiums. And we're going to go on each one and try to explain the difference and the plus. So basically, you have your typical condominium, which is a residential condominium, and then we're going to have condominiums that are Airbnb or allowed daily rentals, right? And then we're going to have condominiums that are known as condo hotels. So those are the three main categories, right? Residential condos, uh, condominiums that allow Airbnb, and condo hotels. We're going to go into a little bit into what the difference is. So basically, we'll start off with the residential condo. A residential condo, right, is the condominium that is made for somebody to live there, not as an investment, right? Or not to even try to rent it. So residential condominiums will normally have bigger square footage, right? They'll try to max, give you bigger space because that's where you live, right? And they're going to have restrictions in the types of rentals that you could do, meaning that they might allow you to rent every 6 months, or maybe they're going to allow you to rent once a year. Uh, this residential condominiums, since they tend to be bigger in size by square feet, also means that you'll be paying a bigger HOA, a higher HOA, because the HOA payment is correlated to the square feet of your apartment, right? So but I also be more private in this kind of buildings. You have you have, how do you call it, less rotation. You kind of get to know your neighbors. It's a place that you can raise your family. Your kids are going to feel a little bit safe. You don't have a high rotation of people moving in and out, right? Uh, and they also tend to appreciate the most. Uh, that when it comes to terms of appreciation, they'll because basically when you look at the spectrum, everybody wants, you're looking at 100% because you need some place to live, and that would be your residential condo. Also, residential condos, right? You get to claim that as your homestead, your primary home, right? And that's your place to live on. So basically, we're talking about residential condos. Uh, in conclusion, they're usually bigger in square footage, right? They're more, they're meant for you to live there longer time, spend uh, time there, right? They're going to have rental restrictions, right? You don't want to have high turnover rates in a rotation of people living on your neighbors because you want to create this stable community where you get to know each other, so you could feel safe for your kids who will be safer, stay safer. You would also have they would appreciate more because everybody wants, everybody's pretty much looking for a place for residential. Then we're gonna have this new trend. So this condo apartments are popping up, especially in Miami, and pretty much a lot in Miami. And I think 80% of the new construction will fit into this kind of category, which would be condos that allow Airbnb or daily rentals or all right. So what's the difference? Okay, so a condominium that will allow daily rentals, number one, they're going to be way smaller in size, right? Because they're going to try to maximize the square feet. So they're going to try to give you right? The much thing in the small square feet. Think about like, it's kind of stupid, but think about a cruise ship. When you go on a cruise ship, right? The room is super compact, but it has all your necessities, right? And the reason they do this is because now when you do an Airbnb building, this really is kind of an investor play, or it's somebody who's thinking that I'm going to put this unit to work. I'm going to put this unit to produce money. I'm going to, I might want to live in the unit 3 months of the year. And then when I'm not there, I'm going to rent it out, right? Do the daily rentals, Airbnb. We all know Airbnb is here to stay. Little facts about Airbnb. I think out of four people that are booking a room, I think 1.9 is staying in Airbnb. So Airbnb, and now I think let's call it daily rentals because we have like over 60,000 platforms out there that allow you to do, so you could rent your units, right? So that's I think a model of business that's here to stay. Yeah, obviously, you're gonna get if you had an apartment which is residential, if you rent it once a year, you might get let's say so you rent a one bedroom for 3,000. If you were to do the one bedroom on Airbnb, you should be getting three times that amount of money. So you get to charge more money for the short term stays. Also, you also get to enjoy. Not to enjoy, you get to maximize the stays because the city of Miami has the Formula One. We have different events. We have high season, low season, and these platforms do daily rentals will fluctuate, and the rental daily will fluctuate depending on the demand that the algorithms of these places will give you, right? So uh, Airbnb buildings will be smaller in sizes, right? Usually, and the reason they do that is right is to get you to pay a smallest amount of HOA because the HOA is related to the square feet. So when you're an investor and you're doing the numbers, the lower your HOA, you want to pay you want to have a lower HOA, so the numbers make sense and you can profit. At the end of the day, when you're an investor and you're investing in real estate, you're looking for a return on your investment and you're trying to get it, you know. So in real estate, you're gonna get return on your investment in two ways. Number one, appreciation, and then two, what we call daily cash or cash on cash, which would be what the rental would generate. Also, these Airbnb buildings will tend to have better amenities, right? Pool, the amenities, a gym, different, much better amenities that would attract people to stay in your place, right? Because they wouldn't want to use the pool. And now we're also seeing that Airbnb um, condos will usually also have some kind of management inside the building that will help you manage the units and try to also give service to the people that are doing the Airbnb or daily rentals. So in the Airbnb condos, you might see that they'll have a pool, but they would also have pool service, towel service, etc. Right? They're going to have workstations. So they're going to have this kind of amenities that's going to attract people that are kind of, so it's almost like staying in a hotel, but you're not staying in a hotel. But now we went over what we call residential towers, right? Which are bigger units, higher HOAs, low rotation for you to bring up your family, right? Now, people that are buying into this Airbnb, which is a whole new trend, and it's happening because also I think our population has changed. We have people working from home. We have people, this whole generation called they call them digital nomads, right? And these people, you get to work for 3 months in Miami, 3 months in New York, 3 months in Paris, et cetera, et cetera. So to them, that something that's an Airbnb. They use it right whenever they want to use it. By the time they're not using it, they could rent it out and make profit or pay for itself, right? So that happens. Also, the new tendency, if the units are the condos and Airbnb units, usually these units are all going to come fully furnished. I would say I would kind of turnkey. The word turnkey is that it's fully. I wouldn't say fully turnkey. Some come fully turnkey means with silverware, glasses, sheets, and towels. Other ones just come with the furniture. And why do they do that? An interesting question. The reason they do that is because if you are staying in an Airbnb, uh, let's say like Nomad, let's use the example of Nomad, which is a normal residence, which allows Airbnb, right? Uh, they're going to want Nomad is going to be ranked like a 5-star or 4-star uh, kind of Airbnb place. So they're going to want to have some kind of standard stay. So you expect so that people that stay in the Airbnb in the Nomad will know what to expect when it comes to the type of furniture or the type of kind of layout, right? So the builders are giving you this Airbnb product already kind of with all the furniture that goes into the Airbnb, right? So we basically have gone over uh, residential, right? Uh, Airbnb, and then the other tower that you will have, it's what they call condo hotels. A condo hotel is where you have where you have a condominium, right? And then you're gonna have an hotel operator running the condo, right? Running the unit. They'll have residents, you could live on it. So you're gonna have some kind of like lifestyle hotel. This might be something like the Ritz, right? Uh, Something like that, right? At the Four Season. So you get a combination of living in an apartment and you get all the benefits of a hotel, which could be room service, which could be, all the amenities being attended. Uh, so you get a feeling like you're staying in a hotel, but you're living in your apartment, right? They allow you to rent those apartments when you're not using. You could rent them, and usually they're going to be tied in to the hotel uh, management system. So if it's a Hilton, right, or where the management is, you are going to be kind of tied to that management, right? And usually, again, the units will be kind of smaller. You're looking at kind of a suite in a hotel that's turned into an apartment, right? So that does appeal to some people that they want to live and they want to be uh live like in a hotel. I mean, believe it or not, I know there's people that actually stay for long periods of time in hotel and live in hotels. So this is kind of so now that brings us to the point that we have three types of towers, right? Residential, Airbnb, and condo hotel. This is very, very important for you to decide when you're buying an apartment, what type of condo are you getting yourself into, right? Because if you're buying for residential and that's where you think you're gonna live, that's great. But if you think you're buying residential and you like the building and everything, but you think that you're gonna be spending 3 months out of the year here, then you're gonna have a hard time renting it for because usually they're gonna allow maybe a rental, maybe 6 months. It's gonna be, the furniture, if you can rent the furniture or not. Usually in the residential side, right? When you rent a unit, it's probably going to be rented on furnished people. If I'm renting a unit, I usually want to I want to decorate it my, give it my personal touch, right? Especially a family, etc. So they buy their own furniture and basically so they don't come furnished, right? Because when you have a unit that's furnished, pretty much you're narrowing it down. What about if somebody wants to rent your unit and it's already furnished and I don't like your furnished, or I'm renting a unit for me to live and I have my furniture and I want to use my furniture, I want to use my bed. I'm going to have those difficulties, right? So that's very important. So you kind of know what kind of building you're getting yourself. If it's an Airbnb building and you like the Airbnb buildings because you fall in love with all the renderings and you see all the amenities and wow, it's great. Uh, but then take into consideration that you don't want to have, you live in an Airbnb building, you're gonna have high rotation. Some your neighbor might be there, that may be renting daily or weekly or something. On this Airbnb try to have high rotations, so it's not the ideal place for you to raise a family or to have kids. Your kids are going to be exposed to different strangers. People, Airbnb might be coming here for a vacation or might be coming here to celebrate some type of party. After all, we're in Miami, we're a party town, right? So they might be celebrating some party or other thing. So usually, this Airbnb buildings will have a high rotation, which I'm not saying it's good or it's bad. I'm just saying that there's some pros and some cons to having an Airbnb unit, right? The high rotation. Now, if you're not living on it, that's fine. If you're going to be here 3 months, so that also gives the flexibility. When you come to Miami, you stay in your unit. When you're not staying in your unit, it produces money. It should be able to pay for itself, right? There's a lot of big possibilities. Now, having this conversation, this Airbnb, if you buy a unit that's an Airbnb, you cannot claim that to be your primary home. That is an investment property. All banks and all institutions are gonna that's gonna fall into the box of an investment property. And then you have the condo hotels, which the condo hotels have you live in the hotel. That's gonna be to a much narrower niche. When you want to rent it, you're gonna give it to the hotel to rent it. The hotel will have a lot more to say on what's going on in the unit, or what's going to happen in the operation of the building, right? They usually also charge higher, right? So there's some pros and some cons that are. So if we were to rank all three in appreciation wise, you have your residential, who appreciates the most. Then you have your Airbnb that does appreciate, but Airbnb, when you factor in the daily cash that you can make, or the cash on cash that you can make for putting the unit to work, you're going to be probably at the same spot that the residential is, or make more money out of it, right? So that's it's kind of a an interesting play if you're not planning to live on it 100%. The hotel condos, right? Those they tend not to appreciate as fast as the other units. And the answer is simple to this, because residential, everybody will want a residential building, right? You have like 100% of the market. Airbnb, that's kind of investor play. You're gonna have maybe what? Well, not everybody's an investor. Not everybody has money to have a second home. That's not their primary home, so your market is going to narrow down. And then also the hotel living, because it is more expensive, and has benefits of being a hotel. But having said that, right, so your niche is going to be smaller, right? So you have a smaller market to actually pull buyers from. So those are the three different types. Also, it's very very important, because remember, when you're buying pre-construction, right, or let's say a resale, uh, it's going to be first, you buy pre-construction. All pre-construction deals are cash deals, right? Let me take it, acknowledge. I see that some people are saying hello. How you doing? Thanks for hopping in. I appreciate. Uh, and if you appreciate the comments, leave comments behind. Really appreciate that. So let me get back on track, right? So the lenders, first of all, if you buy a pre-construction, every deal is a cash deal. Now, developers are going to tell you that they're going to allow you, well, or that you have, the right to look for financing. So now, what happens when you look for financing? Residential building is the easiest to finance. Every lender wants to finance a residential building. There's a lot of more programs. It could be your first home. Uh, so there's a lot of, and the rates are way more favorable, because lenders also understand that residential buildings, if you're going to live in the building, you are going to take care of the unit. You're the owner of the unit. You're going to use the unit. So that loan, more secured, and yeah, most likely you're not going to lose your primary home. Now, when it comes to an Airbnb project, Yeah, there's lending available, but there's also going to be a high interest rate, right? There's more risk to it. The lender sees like, you know what, this will be high rotation. A lot other things could go wrong. If this person something happens to them, they're not going to lose their primary home. They're probably going to try to lose, or if they can't make payments, you're not going to stop paying your house, but you will stop paying any investment property, right? So those are a little bit harder to not how I wouldn't say harder, but the conditions for those kind of loans are going to be different and expect to pay a high interest rate. Also, then we go to the condo hotels. The condo hotels, those are also harder to finance. There's fewer lenders that are interested in lending to that type of product, right? Because they know that type of product has some challenges when it comes to reselling it. So those challenges then uh, it becomes harder for them to hold that note. Also, remember the lenders, they lend money out and then they also have to they package those loans up and they have to resell in the secondary market, right? And they get premium for residential loans. They don't get premium for Airbnb loans, and then they don't, they'll probably like less amount for a condo hotel loan. So basically, we got over all the three towers, all the three condominiums, right? That are happening and the way you should navigate it. Now, here's the situation that's happening in Miami, which is becoming very, very interesting, and it's happening right when it's relatively new. So let me give you an example, a clear example. Let's talk about the icon. You look at the icon, right on Brickell. There's three towers, right? The first tower is a hotel, very clear hotel. People come in, they have a hotel. Then we're going to have a second tower, which is they allow Airbnb, so that's a short term. Airbnb. And then the third tower is just residential people, right? So there you have and then they all share, the middle space where the pool is at, and they share a lot of the amenities and etc. But it's very, very clear defined. You have three associations, you have three budgets. It's very, very clear to determine this is a residential building, this is an Airbnb building, this is on the hotel. So that's kind of very, very clear. But what's happening today is now we're seeing high rises coming up. And I'm going to give you an example. Let's just say that it's a 60-story building. And what's going to happen? And then the developers will say, you know what? Okay, so the first 20 stories or 20 floors of the building, it's going to be a condo hotel. They might have a condo, they might have an operator, I don't know, Hilton operator, or I don't know, there's different kind of, there's different hotels out that are popping up from different, but the first 20 stories are dedicated to what they call condo hotel living. Then they're going to separate and say, okay, from the 20 and the 40th floor, it's going to be Airbnb. Those units are going to be dedicated for Airbnb. You're gonna be allowed to do Airbnb, daily rentals, etc. So you can maximize your money. No rental restrictions, etc. And then they're going to say from the 40th to the 60th floor, right? Um, it's going to be residentials. That's where the residents live, right? So they have a different. But look at the problem. Look at the situation that's happening. So now you have one single tower with the three elements combined, right? And this then becomes a little bit harder for lenders to try to try to understand what kind of tower do you live in, right? And this is important. I mean, if you're buying cash, fine, no big, no, deal. But if you're trying to get a loan, right? Then you have to look into see if the tower has three condo docs for the three different condo docs are the documents that regulate the the condominium, right? So how is that condominium structured? Do they have a budget for the hotel? Do they have a budget for the Airbnb? Do they have a budget for residents? Or is it all combined? Right? And that's basically what's happening a lot because we're running Miami's running into the situation, right? We all know Miami's it's already built out, and now we're going vertical up, and we need to take advantage of much spaces, right? So now it's also not very feasible for a developer to say, you know what, I'm going to make three towers when they could do one tower and combine all those three elements. So those are the things that are happening today. So today in the morning, if I wanted to, if there was a question that I wanted to answer, and is how many types of condominiums or apartments are there? So the answer to that is three, right? There's residential, there's Airbnb or daily rentals, and there's condo hotels. This is very, very important for you to know. So when you're looking at places to understand what uh, what type of building you are looking at, if you're looking to buy a building or looking at purchase, etc. Right? Because basically you don't want to make the mistake of, if you find a place that you like, you look at the condo, you walk into the sales center, you look at the rentings, everything is great. Oh, they tell you, no worries, you could live on it, but you could do Airbnb, you could do whatever you want. It's gonna be great. Yeah, it sounds great until you start living in there, and then you start, hey, you know what? My neighbors keep rotating. There's a lot of parties. I keep seeing people moving in and out. Uh, you start to feel a little bit unsafe, especially if you have kids running around. So those factors come into play because they're going to affect the quality of living that you have. So it's very, very important that you know what kind of building. And let me finish my morning walk. I think it took a little longer than I normally do when I do my morning talks or my morning walk. I wanted to share that. If you have questions that you would like me to answer, just put them there. Right today, the question was, because if I keep getting asking how many comes in hotels. If you want it more clear, please reach out. Right, my information is on the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give me comments and likes so I could keep. This motivates me to keep moving forward. Like I'm a realtor, over 30 years of experience, and that's another thing, guys. In today's world, it's very, very important that you know who you're working with. I mean, I keep running into this question. Real estate is it's a very serious career. I mean, we have a lot of realtors, and not some of them they don't do it 100%. I'm not going to go into this, but and they don't specialize in different things. So it's very, very important that you have a professional that's going to guide you through the process of what you're looking for and to be knowledgeable, right, on what you're getting into. Because you're buying a condo, right? It looks great. They take you to the sales place. It's awesome, great, everything looks great. But do they tell you it's at a condo hotel? It's an Airbnb play? It's a residential, right? They look at the renderings and you see the renderings and dude, they look beautiful. And then you realize it's an Airbnb and they're putting a two-bedroom and an 800 square feet uh, space. I mean, it looks great in the renderings and it fits. Let me go back to the cruise ship. I mean, you go to these cruise ships and wow, they get these little rooms and they put a bathroom. I mean, you get this. Wow, I mean, it's amazing how they maximize the space, right? So they kind of going to do that. So it's very important that you go through that. Having said that, guys, let me say hello to the people that are in. Thank you for waking up, rise and shine. Make this morning a great day. Have a beautiful day. I'm sending you good vibes. And thank you.